Hi, I'm Cassie.
And I'm Mariah.
And this is the Cassie and Mariah Show, a podcast where two long-distance internet friends, that's us, discuss navigating their 20s through disability and chronic illness.
Cassie, this is it. The last episode of season 1.
Woohoo!
We are, this is appropriately, is going to be Cassie's birthday extravaganza.
Yes.
Because this comes out the week that it will be your birthday.
Or somewhere around then.
Somewhere around July 28th, as they say. So we got a very fun episode for you guys, where Cassie's just she's gonna go right into everything that she loves. But first, we're gonna crack open some cold ones. Ready?
It's happening.
Oh, I struggled this time. Oh my god, I bent the tab.
It's not going.
It's not going?
Oh my god.
Good.
Everything's fine.
I literally bent the tab in half. It was a strong drink opening.
Damn. Well, as they say in Ice Princess, an object is only as strong as its weakest point or something, and then she uses a straw or something and she pushes on his drink after he breaks the tab off.
Interesting. I was gonna say, I like how you misquoted it, and then you just described a scene.
Yeah.
As they maybe say in this movie, but let me just paint it for you.
Yeah. Well, it's at the party, and now I'm just fucking drinking in the middle of talking. It's it's at the party, and then it's peak Disney romance. Okay.
What are you drinking? What do you got?
I have a mini A&W root beer. I had full plans to make a cold brew, but the thing about making a cold brew is you have to remember to make it the night before.
You have to make a cold brew.
And I didn't. So, but honestly, no regrets. It's too warm to drink coffee. I don't know. It doesn't feel right. Even though it's a cold brew, I'm like, ugh. How about you? What's on the menu today?
I got a fancy drink for y'all. I'm very obsessed recently with hemp extract seltzers. So this is the brand Cloud Water. It's a sparkling seltzer. The flavor is blackberry, lemon, and rosemary, which blackberry, lemon, love. I love drinks that are blackberry. I don't really taste too much of a rosemary flavor to it. I think if they mostly just add shit like that for this is a very millennial drink, you know what I mean? Where it's they got extra shit in there that doesn't make any sense. It's when they make juices and they're oh, we're gonna add wheatgrass to it, and you're why? You don't even taste it.
Kale.
It serves no purpose. Exactly. It's I had a hemp seltzer the other week that was pineapple kale. What the fuck?
I'm drinking a salad.
Drinking a salad.
It's and that is why I'm so pro just be honest about wanting to drink a pop.
Right. No, literally. I have just gotten on this hook of, wanting to drink seltzers because I don't want to drink a soda. And, these ones have wildflower honey, so it's, nice and sweet. And it has hemp extract, which I like to think that it, makes you chill. There's no THC. It's just, the hemp. But, again, I don't really think that does anything. Verdict's still out on whether or not we actually feel effects from hemp in seltzers when it's only excuse me, when it's such a little milligram amount. I'm gonna keep that burping. We're just gonna fucking roll with it.
Keep it,
dude. This is the episode, guys.
Oh yeah,
Cassie, how's your week been? What's up?
Oh man, it's been a few weeks in a week. Also, it's 333 right now, and that's been popping up a lot for me because I was just transcribing the episode where we talk about the angel numbers with the Boy Genius thing, and when I paused transcribing that, it was 13 and 33 seconds or something, and I was oh my god, so much is happening. Anyway.
Wait, that's so cute.
My week has literally been so, just very dense. The other day, I keep saying, I don't know, I don't know if other people think like this, but sometimes I literally am yeah, my day felt 5 days, and not in, me just being oh, it was really long. I'm no, this morning feels like it was last week.
Oh, yeah. No, of course. Yeah. No, I always feel like that.
So there's been a lot of those days, especially because, so the biggest thing is I started my internship this week, which was very good. It's been very good, very fun. And literally it's cured all my problems because I now have routine again. And so it's very nice because since it's only part-time, it's like I consistently just have like my late afternoons and evenings open and weekends and stuff, and I just like love, like, I don't know, it's just, I love having routine. And so that's been very nice. But then it's like, okay, well, my internship is one day in my mind, and then my life after my internship in the afternoon is the second day. The problem is there's no sleepy time between those 2 days. So I have been a little bit tired because I've been getting up earlier for work, but I haven't been going to bed earlier, which is really an issue.
That sucks.
But you know what? I'll eventually learn my lesson. And then this week I saw Louis from One Direction, which was my fucking Super Bowl, basically.
I love that.
It just sparked so much joy for me. Me and Courtney went and got food beforehand because we had enough time. And you know what, too? We were perfect time getting food because, so it's like, for those who don't live in Oregon or are not familiar, Edgefield, like, is part of, like, the McMenamins franchise or whatever you want to call it. And so it's, like, this place that has, like, a bunch of different restaurants and all sorts of stuff on site. And so there's this little patio that me and some of my friends usually go to before shows if we have time. And sometimes it's really slow and sometimes it's not. We got there, got seated right away. It was super fast service. Everybody who came in after us had a 15-minute wait to get seated and a 45-minute wait for food.
Damn.
So we stay winning. And then, yeah, I don't know. We kind of just got in there and slayed it. I don't know how to explain it. It was just perfect. Like, we got in there, we got situated on the ADA platform, and, you know, other people had also gotten there, like, you know, right as gates open too. And so we were able to kind of, like, help watch each other's spots for each other. Because, you know, even though the ADA platform, like, isn't the busiest place in the world, whatever, like, you're still like, okay, yes, but I want to be front of it. Like,
no, I get that.
You know, you're like, I have claimed my spot, nobody take my spot, you know? And so we established relationships with the people around us, and so then we were able to go and first we got merch, because they had posters specific to the show that were, like, screen printed, really nice, and so I wanted to get one of those, and Courtney wanted to get a shirt, and so, the dad of the kids next to us was like, oh, dang, like, I wish I had known, like, I would have just grabbed you stuff while I was in line, you know, and I was like, oh, that's, you know, nice, but I'm sure it won't be that bad. I mean, the line was really long, but it only took us 20 minutes to get through, which I feel like isn't that bad compared to, like, how long it was. And then immediately after that, we went and acquired ice cream because, you know, we had to. And so then we went back and we sat and we ate our ice cream while we watched the first opener. And then, sort of while the first opener was playing, we were like, uh-oh, the one thing we haven't done is gone and taken cute pictures. And so we went and did that. We had to, you know, go scout out a good location to take cute pictures because it's obviously necessary.
Yes.
And then we finally went back and actually sat and chilled for the show. But it was funny because apparently we fully missed the memo that Louis fans dress up in red and black because it's like the colors of his album. We apparently did not do our research adequately, but you know what? Oh well.
It's like nice in theory, but like to dress up for shows is always something that, I don't know. It's like not like you're obligated to, and it would be nice to feel part of it, but you don't kind of want to sometimes.
I mean, we both just dressed cute because that's what we do for Harry show.
Right.
And it's like, damn it, this is a different place. And apparently there's different expectations. But ironically, so the ADA section, they always wristband you so you can just go in and out easily without, issue. And they have different wristbands, so that way you can't like take one from one night to another night kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
And so they alternate. And they had red and black smiley faces. And I was like, shit, even they got the memo.
Oh, wait, that's actually so funny.
I know. We were like, okay, well, thank God we fit in now. But yeah, and then Courtney sat there and knitted her sock. Wow, we waited for Louis to come on. And, oh my God, it was just the best. It was just... I mean, literally nothing compares to, like, seeing any member of One Direction. Anything to do with One Direction in my life is it just makes me so happy. And, of course, he played Night Changes and Where Do Broken Hearts Go, and it just made me so happy.
Oh, I love that. Seeing Niall next year is gonna hit. What do you think his outfits are gonna be like? Like, what are we gonna have to dress up as?
Oh, dress up as...
No, literally, I'm kind of like...
You should dress up as Art from the Curio Shop.
No, I literally was like, Niall gives off like... he gives off like country boy energy, like cowboy hat energy.
Oh, God. I hope not.
Even though, like, no. I know he's not from... I mean, I would imagine not. It's not like he's from the South. He's from Ireland.
Yeah, no. No, I don't know, because he hasn't toured since before COVID, so I don't know how people...
Researching Irish fashion.
We'll just have to see... We'll have to do some internet research before our date of the tour to... see what the girlies are wearing.
Yeah, see what y'all wearing.
But no, that was very good. I mean, definite highlight of my week, highlight of my summer, highlight of my life, etc. I mean, honestly, like, to me, it's like, okay, Louis was June, Boy Genius is July, Maggie Rogers is August. Yes, I'm seeing other people in that time, but like, I'm like 3 peak shows. Like,
those are like the headline shows of the month.
Pretty much, yeah, for me. Other than that, I had some other big fun things. I won a scholarship for my transportation cardigan that I crocheted, which was so unexpected because they had emailed me recently being like, oh, like, you're a semifinalist, we want to set up an interview. And I was like, okay, that's honestly probably valid because they said they cap applications at 500. So I'm like, they probably keep the application brief so that way they can, then they can just narrow it down and then get to know you more as opposed to having to read through so much. But no, I get on the interview and they're like, so our first question is, how does it feel to find out you're actually one of our finalists? And if I had a nickel for every time that this is how I won something, I'd have 2 nickels. But it's kind of weird that it happened twice, right?
Because not a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice.
That's how I found out that I had won the subsidy grant to start Half Access, was the exact same way. They said,
oh my God.
Except for the first time they actually did interview me, but then they said they wanted to do a follow-up interview. And that's how they had told me I won. And so I literally, before, like, this scholarship interview, because I was like, what are they going to ask me, And so I was like, whatever, I'll just see what happens. And so I did have the thought of, what if it's not an interview and it's them so, like, I was mentally prepared a little bit for that to be the case, but I was still very shook that it actually was true. Because that means, like, I was literally one of a handful of 500 people who won. Yeah, just super
That's so
cool.
Awesome. That sweater deserves it. Like, you deserve it, But that sweater really nails, like what a fucking epic piece of art.
I told them, I was like, it makes me so happy to, like, win something that's based on something that, like, it's hard to make time to, like, do things outside of school and stuff. And so the fact that I could win a scholarship based on, like, a passion project, like, just made me so happy, because it's like, it shows that those parts of our life are, like, can really pay off, but, like, I mean, obviously in more ways than just, like, literal scholarship money, but just, like, it obviously told a bigger story, too, that could get me that money, but, yeah, no, I was just very touched, and,
Yay.
yeah, and then because, it just keeps going, my week can't stop there. I finally got my prescription sunglasses. I ordered them on the 1st of June, and it took the entire month to finally get them. But boy, is it nice being able to see things. The weird thing is, though, that prescription is slightly better than my normal eyeglasses, so switching between them, I get a little seasick.
Oh my god. Why is the prescription different?
Let's see. Sorry, that was me rewinding.
I could tell.
Okay, I think it was last year I wanted to get contacts as my way of then just being able to wear sunglasses.
Okay.
And so before I did that, I had gotten, like, my eyes checked. I hadn't gotten them checked since, like, I first got glasses and stuff. So I was like, oh, probably good idea to just double check. And so, like, it's slightly changed, but not by much. And so, like, that's my most up-to-date prescription on file when they, like, ordered my because I just randomly was like, I'm going in to, like, get these sunglasses, like, yeah, I was like, I don't really want to do the contacts thing, so I just was like, I'm gonna just go in and get prescription sunglasses, and so then it was like, yeah, I totally forgot that the prescription was slightly different, and I'm like, well, I mean, nice to be able to, especially because, like, outside, that's when I'm gonna be, like, seeing farther distances anyway.
True.
So it's like, honestly, it works out pretty well that it's for my sunglasses, as opposed to my regular ones. But yeah, so that made a big difference, and it was nice because I got them the day before I went to a soccer game.
Yeah.
So it was very nice to be able to wear them out and about in the world. Yeah, this was my third professional soccer game, second women's professional game, seeing the Portland Thorns. We lost, and it was a pretty brutal game because the refs were absolute shit. They made the worst calls, and, like, just, it's funny because, like, whoever runs, like, the screen where they'll decide what to replay, like, they're obviously on the side of the fans, and so it's like they'll replay, like, the other team literally pushing our player down and the refs not calling it, and we're all just losing our minds.
Oh my god.
It's kind of fun, though, to be in that, like, community of, like, even when it's not going well, it's kind of fun because you're all like, boo, like,
yeah.
And
the collective hate.
Yeah, well, and, like, when the refs, so, like, at halftime, the refs all walk off. They walk towards the fans to go, like, under the stadium to wherever they chill during the halftime or whatever. And then they do the same thing after the game is over. And so since they're walking towards us, everybody boos louder and flips them off because they were so bad. And so when the refs were walking off after the game, the one who was really bad, she held up her yellow card at us, like, flagging us. I was like, okay, you're the one with the issues, but yes, the only point that the other team got was for a penalty kick from a bad call, so that sucked. But I mean, it was a really good game. We had lots of, like, really close shots, but their goalie was just always on it, which, it happens. My first 2 games were perfect, flawless, chef's kiss, beautiful games. Both were wins, and so now I'm like, this is what it's like to really be a fan.
Right, to actually feel like that you lost.
Yeah, sticking it out. Well, because now I'm like, well, shit, I can't just not go to another game now. I can't end on a loss, And I'm like, I'm already, like, making plans for when I'm gonna go back, because now I'm like, okay, well, now I must bring all of my friends to the soccer games.
Yes.
So, Also, really random thing, but at both the Louis show and after the soccer game, I ran into somebody who's also disabled who came to my adaptive Harry Styles bike ride last year. And so it's just, like, very nice to, like, make, like, new disabled, like, event friends. Like, because especially pre-COVID, I used to run into the same disabled people at a lot of shows and stuff. And so it's just, like, nice to make those connections and, like, just, like, regularly see people out and about. Because, to be fair, especially at, like, Timbers games, but, like, soccer games in general and stuff, like, a lot of the people you do see out are a lot older. So it's, like, it's not the same as, like, meeting somebody who's closer to your age. So it's just nice to feel in community in that way.
Cute. I love that. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, my last thing. I'm so sorry. I look at us recording and I'm like, fuck, we're already so deep into this and I'm still talking about my week. The last thing is I have had many dreams about us hanging out and they all go very weirdly.
Huh.
The first one, we were getting on a bus and we accidentally got on the wrong bus. And mind you, it was like 4 a.m. Weird. Why are we getting on a bus?
Why are we getting up that early?
And we accidentally took a bus to Washington, and then we were like, well, the buses don't run that frequently at this time of day, so how are we going to get back to Oregon? Very inconvenient. And then, I don't even know, the one last night, I don't know, you were fighting with my brother, and...
That's a thing that could happen while I'm out there.
And then you were also trying to fall in love with all of my childhood friends.
Oh, cringe.
It was a journey. I also just vividly remember me asking somebody in my dream if they had hot cousins or siblings or something. It's been a time to be in my dreams lately. Yeah. Well, Mariah, how was your week?
Wow, my week was nothing to write home about. If you can't tell, I'm sick. And I, like, was sick this entire week, which really fucking sucked. Because, like, I always, when I'm sick like this, I feel super guilty still about, like, taking time for myself and time to rest. And Cassie's rolling her eyes at me because, like, resting is not something you should guilt yourself into. It should be something that you do automatically.
Your 6-minute audio message to me being like, I don't know, should I go to work? And I'm like, you thought about going to the hospital and you're asking if you should go to work.
Dude, the capitalist worm in my head won't let me breathe. Literally. Literally. I mean, the thing is that at the start of the week when I wasn't feeling the best, I genuinely thought it was because I was sleeping with my fan on. Because sometimes I get, like, a bit of, like, a hoarseness in my throat if I sleep with my fan on. So that's what I thought it was. And then when I woke up on Tuesday morning, I was like, wait, I actually, like, don't feel well at all. Like, I felt a lot of pain in my chest, and I was like, maybe I, like, shouldn't do anything today. So I didn't, which sucked because I had a lot of plans that day to just, like, do things, and I didn't do any of it.
Good.
So then Wednesday rolls around, and I was still not feeling any better. Like, sometimes it's like, like, because at first I thought it was, like, more of a chronic pain thing, so I was like, I think I'll just feel better. Like, the pain will just go away, whatever. And then I was talking to my doctor's office on the phone, like, whenever I'm sick like this, I always call, like, my CF team. I don't call, like, my primary care doctor, because she'll just tell me to call my CF doctors. So I do, because it's, like, lung issues. So I called them, and, like, just talking to them and trying to figure out, like, what we should do. And my doctor brought up about how she thinks that I should try, like, going back to using my medicinal marijuana for chronic pain. Because, like, this entire time, I haven't used weed since March, and I just wasn't, if you listen to the fucking weed episode, I didn't want to, like, do drugs again, so I kind of didn't want to, like, go back to this, but I was like, maybe it actually would help with pain, and that I should give a shot, just to, like, for chronic pain, like, keeping that under control type of thing. Safe to say, like taking half of an edible after not taking one for 4 months, I was zooted. I was, as they say, greened out. Like, I could not do anything but lay in bed stoned as hell. And that, like, really sucks, because I hated feeling like that after not feeling like that for so long, because it's like a very uneasy and like scary feeling almost. Because I'm like, I am blazed out of my mind. And I'm like, you know, gripping onto the carpet because I feel the earth spinning type of thing. Like, it's so bad. Like, not even kidding. I'm being so dramatic, but like, it was so bad. So, and that was like a half. That was a half of an edible, which like in the past I'd usually take a full edible. So I took a half. And then the night after that, I was like, okay, like again, because I'm still trying to manage like chronic pain, I was like, I should take half of a half. So I took a quarter. Still blazed. Oh, still as if I took the same amount as before. And I was like, at this point, just like pissed. Because I was like, I like was still feeling pain really bad. So it was like, I was stoned and I didn't feel better. Whereas the first night, when I took the half of an edible, I did feel pain relief. I was just high. So I was like, the thing is that, like, it's either or. Like, it's either I get, like, stoned and I don't feel relief, or I get super stoned and then I feel relief. And just, like, it's hard to be, like, that high. And, like, I can't smoke weed, so I mostly have to take edibles. So, like, I can't find this middle ground of, like, what's better for me and, like, what actually would work. So I just sat there and I ate ice cream until I fell asleep. Like, so I just was not having a good time. And I think I'm going to try, if I do take an edible again, I think it's just really going to be like when I feel uncomfortable with pain. Like, I really don't think I'm going to like, I just don't want to fall into that habit of like taking it all the time. But, yeah, I was just, it just sucked. I was like, I hate microdosing Stoner Girl Nation over here. Like, this shit sucks. But yeah, I still kind of like feel sick. It's okay. So like, here's the conclusion of what I think is wrong with me. I have like a Pseudomonas lung infection in my lungs. That's just what I got. People with CF have always their Pokemon bacteria. That's like the one of a kind type of thing. I have this one. And, I think that it gets inflamed during certain, like, I don't think there's anything that really triggers an inflammation. Sometimes it could be the weather, things like that, like outside circumstances I can't control. So this time I think it was something like that, and I think it triggered my lung infection to just be like inflamed again. And and that's what I felt. Like, I had a chest x-ray. There's nothing wrong on the chest x-ray. I wasn't feeling a fever. I wasn't feeling any body aches, anything like that. It was just primarily in my lungs. I was feeling this and feeling a headache as well, because like my sinuses were getting so backed up because, like, you know, the spreading of infection between your respiratory system. And I just think it's that. I just think I get, like, my Pseudomonas infection gets inflamed every now and then, and that's why I feel like this. Because this is, like, the second time I felt this specific type of, like, shit wrong with me, where I'm just like, yeah, it makes sense that it's, like, inflamed, like, you know, just inflammation due to, like, a lung infection I already have. The only upside is that I do like how hoarse my voice sounds. I wish I sounded like this all the time.
It is kind of...
I like it.
I was going to say, I kind of like it too.
Right? I always like you like this. I don't know why. I've always liked people that have a little bit more of like a scratchier voice. Someone was like, I when I posted my Instagram story the other day, someone was like, or one of my friends was like, you sound like it's like a hot New York mom that like smokes cigarettes. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, I get it. Like, I was like, yeah, man, like, I wish. What else did I do this? I mean, so this week I really didn't do anything. Like, I kind of just rotted. Literally, rock girl summer. Like, I laid in bed and fucking rotted the entire time. I said rock girl summer, and my lungs were like, yeah.
Let's do this.
I watched like half the season. I watched half of the new season of The Bear. And oh god, Will Poulter's in that show now. You know who he is? He was in like Meet the Millers. He's like the son. No. He's in like Marvel movies. I don't know. He's hot as hell. He's hot as hell in it. He's like his character is like based out of Denmark because like they send one of the guys to pastry school out there.
Ew. So sorry, we just don't have the same taste. Ew.
But him and the bear is so good. No. He's a British actor.
No.
You have to look him up in The Bear, okay? He's got like... he's got like nice, he's got like tattoos on his arms. He's like super jacked. He like got fucking fit, and like he looks good.
Okay.
Okay, but he was in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Right, exactly.
It's doing more for me in that context.
Yes, he's a pastry chef, and he's like, the way that he talks about making like gelato and just like the pastries and stuff, I was like, okay.
Oh, that is kind of...
Okay. I was like, oh, okay.
I guess I really need to get watching this show fast.
Yes. But I've been really enjoying that show. I only got like halfway through season 2, and I like this season a lot more than the first one. I think because it really explores like just the depth of each character and like kind of how they got to, because he's like making the restaurant, like he's assembling a staff and they're doing everything. So he's like finding more about like, each person that works in the restaurant. So it's like, and that's what I like too, because in the first season, I kind of felt like, other than Carmi, who's the main character, everybody kind of felt like almost like a B character in a way, but like, because it just focused so much about his life. So the second season, it really focuses on like all the other characters too. So I'm like, okay, like this kind of feels just more of like a better production. I had an intake appointment for my ADHD assessment appointment, which sucks that I have to wait till fucking September to get the appointment done. I mean, I was expecting that though. Like I wasn't assuming that they were gonna get me in like right away. But I was just rattling off the things wrong with me in my intake appointments, and that was very fun to just tell a new person everything wrong in my head. I pulled the Empress Tarot card this week, which I feel like I should have started with this when I talked about how I fucking felt this week. And the Emperor Tarot card is like a really positive card. It's like abundance and femininity and like luck, or like more just like joy, very like divine feminine vibes. And I'm like, that's crazy because I only took one shower this week and I had to call out of work. So I almost didn't get any of the things that the card described. How hilarious. So that really sucked. I just can't. That's the thing. Like, again, capitalist worm in my head. I hated that I had to call out of work, man. That shit blows. Because I want money. Anyway. But I think that's everything for me this week. I'm going to the beach a few days this week. Which that'll be nice to just have, like, beach days to relax in the sun. Maybe salty water will make me feel better. Oh, okay. I'm just allergic to the sun. We get it. You can't even sit in a car without feeling sick.
Yesterday before I went to the soccer game, I put on sunscreen like lotion, and then I went out on the front porch and had my mom use the spray stuff on me over top of that as if it was setting spray.
Literally, I was going to say, it's like setting it.
It felt disgusting, but I'm fine.
Hey, as long as it worked.
I envy people who can sit in the sun. Did you see that Hank Green TikTok? Here's the thing. I don't watch TikTok. I see it either on Instagram Reels or on YouTube Shorts. So
YouTube Shorts are hitting me lately. I've been digging them.
On the homepage of YouTube, you can click a little X. Like, you know how it like suggests like recommended for you, and then it'll show like a row of YouTube Shorts. There's a little X button where you can decide, don't show me this section for another 30 days. That made a big difference for me because, that was really breaking me. But he made one about how, like, there's, like, there's, like, a few things happening in your body. It's, like, you're getting dehydrated. Your body must maintain a certain temperature at all, the 90, whatever, 8.7, whatever it is, 90 something. I know a lot about science. And then also, like, your skin is being damaged by the sun. So there's, like, so much happening at once that it's, like, that's why you're so exhausted after being in the sun. I was like, and then you throw in being allergic. And, I wish I could relax in the sun.
It just dehydrates me really fast, and I get so sick in the sun sometimes. Like, I get really, like, if I'm not, like, prepared for it, I won't feel well. But that's why I'm not, like, a big beach person to begin with. But, like, if I'm going with, like, a friend and we're, like, setting aside, like, okay, we're going to be there for X amount of hours, I'm like, okay, that's tolerable. I can do that. And, like, just doing low-key things, like sitting there reading a book and being like, okay, 2 hours gone by, I need to go home.
Yeah.
And that's it, you know? Because I think being on the beach also makes me less on my, like, phone, because my phone is like, I'm fucking burning up over here. Can you turn me off? And I'm like, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I feel like our beaches are never that hot, though, so can't relate. We don't have beaches. We have the coast.
Well, what is on the coast?
What?
A beach. What's on the coast? A beach?
I know, but we call it the Oregon coast. Like how it's the Jersey Shore.
I was gonna say, we say Jersey Shore, so...
But, like, yeah, no, our beaches are pretty cold and windy most of the time.
Oh.
I mean, like, it's decent. If it's sunny, you're getting a good beach day, you know?
Okay, I relate. Now I get that.
Lower your expectations before you come here.
Manage your expectations.
But, as you said...
As I said, this is a pretty chill episode. This is actually, we're kind of saying this is kind of like the pizza party before school gets out.
Yes.
Like, you know, this is like the last day of class. You're like, oh, you're talking to your friends or signing your yearbooks and shit. And you're like, all right, like, I guess, like, you write hags, you know, like, have a great summer, guys. And then you leave.
Facts.
And that's what this episode is.
Facts.
We're signing your yearbook. We're exchanging your phone number, and don't expect to hear from me this summer.
And listen, I've just been adding shit to our show doc, and I don't know where to, I mean, I'm just gonna go in order here. I was gonna say I don't know where to begin, but no, I do know where to begin.
Yes.
I think it's interesting that last episode, the quarter life crisis episode, we almost exclusively talked about careers and money and stuff, which I think is very indicative of the quarter life crisis and of, like, midlife crises, of all the life crises, and also just speaks to living in a capitalist society. But it's interesting that we didn't talk about, like, friends, family, hobbies, relationships, like anything like that. Like, you know, we didn't talk about those other huge areas of our lives, like, but I just wanted to say that it's interesting because clearly there's more to life than career.
I get that, but it's also, like, part of me thinks it's like, what is there to say? Like, I want to make more friends in my future.
I mean, I think it's a very real thing for a lot of people our age, is like, you're like, like, a lot of people have, like, graduated college and they're like, uh-oh, don't know how to make adult friendships, like, and so that is, like, a huge area of work, or, like, I don't know, yeah.
Well, like, I think, too, is that it's just career, money, direction is kind of just, like, our main focus right now in this part of our lives, where you're just, like, finding your footing and things like that, like, because, I mean... I feel like for me, it's like very easy for me to develop a new hobby and new friendships and stuff. Like, I kind of find that I just like walk into things like that, which like I feel like that's just me being an extrovert when I need to be, or like accidentally being an extrovert.
Which it is funny though, because I feel like it wasn't that long ago that you were like, I need more friends to hang out.
That is true. If you are listening to this episode and you live in the state of New Jersey, we should be friends and you should hang out with me. Well, like, I think the thing is that, like, I have, like, I say it in therapy, and I was saying it in my intake appointment, it's like, I feel like I have great friends, and I have, like, really good people that I talk to, and people I associate myself with, but it's hard to find time to see those people, because everybody's all over the place. Like, your friends don't live in the state anymore, or your friends, like, the schedules don't line up.
That's exactly what I mean. Like, it's surprising that... That's why I'm like, it's surprising that, like, these things didn't come up more, but I just wanted to make an acknowledgement that there are other areas of our life. We may be girl bosses, but we're also girl employees. We're also girls.
We're also girls. On the outside of being a girl boss, you are still the other half of the word, a girl.
Yeah.
I guess it's just something that I don't think of often, because I'm not the type of person who's always been like that, though. Like, I'm not the type of person every single weekend I was doing something, going out, XYZ. Like, I kind of like my solitude almost. Like, you know, where I'm like, oh, I like doing one thing every now and then, and like, that's enough. I'm like, I mean, I just dealt with the week of being sick, where I had to cancel plans with friends.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it just sucks to like make plans with people that not be able to follow through because I don't feel well. So like, I feel like it's hard for me to just plan things ahead of time.
Yeah, it is interesting to think. I don't remember what episode it was, but I know there was one where you were like, yeah, like on a Friday night, a Saturday night, I'm like sitting here like, where are all my friends?
Yeah.
You know?
No, I was feeling that this weekend. Yeah, rotting.
Rotting.
I was feeling that this weekend, though, is like, I was, like, you know, by the time we were recording this, like, it's like July 4th weekend. So I'm like, oh man, like, I wasn't invited to any barbecues or like going out and things like that. And then I'm like, realistically, like, I wouldn't be able to go anyway because I don't feel well. Second of all, I don't really think I have friends that like are in a place to host things like that. Because, you know, you're kind of hosting at your parents' house, which it could turn into like a family party if you do stuff like that. And like, it's just, you know, what are people doing? Like, where are they? And we said this before. Like, where are people our age?
Well, and also, like, everybody has work the next day.
Right. Well, it gives me even more of a sense of, like, a Saturday night.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
like a Friday night, Saturday night. Like, that's when people were having barbecues and stuff. But it's like, where are you guys? And why am I don't know. You ever wonder why you don't get invited to things?
I don't know.
That's
I think
a bigger
a lot
question,
of people
but
our age go to, like, raves. I'm not even kidding.
No, I think you're right. Like, no, I think they go literally, like, clubbing. Like, they go out places like that. And, like, I think some people just know that, like, I wouldn't be into that.
We should start a bi-coastal rock girls club.
Yeah.
To find more people our age that are into rotting.
I see it on TikTok where those girls are like, I live in the city and I have no friends. Anybody want to be friends with me? And then they, like, have, like, Central Park, like, full of, like, young women one day because everyone's like, no, I feel the same way and I want to make friends. And they'll go. Like, I need shit like that.
I think a lot of people just go to work, come home, rot, do it again, you know?
You're so right, because, like, the amount of my friends that are like, no, this weekend I, like, don't want to do anything because I worked all week. And I'm like, okay.
And this all comes back to your point of, I will change your tire. I just want to spend time with you.
Yes. Put it on tote bags, put it on a t-shirt, Mariah's mechanic service, and friendship service.
Oh my god. Oh, they should have had you as a character in Cars, and that's just facts.
Oh my god. Ooh, that'd be a nice, cute little, like, I don't know, what would she look like? Enough of this. Let's get back to the...
Yeah, let's get back to the topic, which is actually...
45 minutes of nothing!
Disney Channel original movies, because, listen, I've been fucking on one lately. I in our document, I have just listed so many to just jog everyone's little memories here. High School Musical, Camp Rock, Halloween Town, Princess Protection Program, Xenon, Double Teamed, Johnny Capahala Back on Board, or also Johnny Tsunami, but I really liked Back on Board better. Cheetah Girls, Cadet Kelly, except for, like, pro-military, I mean, like, what is that, military propaganda?
Military propaganda.
Cowbells, Go Figure, the Lizzie McGuire movie? I mean, come on, Ice Princess, Motocross. Here's the thing about some of these, though, is, like, especially for the series, some of them ended up, like, High School Musical 3 was in theaters.
Yeah.
Which in my opinion lowered the quality by making it higher quality.
Okay. But was that?
I guess so.
Here's the thing. High School Musical, yes. The quality of the first movie was, like, perfect for just, like, a Disney Channel original movie.
Yes.
The third one being in theaters, it was a good movie, but wait, the third one? What was that even about?
Senior
senior prom?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, senior year. They make a musical
was
about
fourth
themselves.
One?
No.
Wow. They missed the mark. Why not have 4? There's 4 years of high
But they
school.
graduated in the third one.
I guess. The High School Musical 2 will always be my favorite movie. Very, very nostalgic for that movie. I guess because, like, the soundtrack just hits. Like,
It does.
that's what I mean. Camp Rock, iconic.
The second one also, in the same way that the third High School Musical is like kind of feels distant and removed, Camp Rock 2 also feels a bit distant and removed.
Interesting how you feel about that with that movie, and also Cars 2.
Very different. I mean, because that's the thing. Camp Rock 2, there is no Camp Rock 3, so
we will never know what Camp Rock 3 is.
Which is silly, because why? Like, I want to see Brown retire. I want to see Mitchie and Shane run the camp.
Right.
Own the
I feel like there's a lot of underlying Disney things on the back end that probably didn't, was probably the reason why that third movie never got made. I don't even know if it ever was, like, in production or, like, had any sort of, like, feet on the ground. I don't think it did either. I feel like at that point, I don't know. I feel like the second one, I don't even think I saw the second one, to be honest. I also never saw Halloween Town, which I know that's a disappointing thing. I keep ripping that Band-Aid off.
We'll bring that one back up later. I've been rewatching a lot of these movies lately because, again, as we know, I just love to rewatch stuff, which I never used to understand, like, why my parents liked watching really old movies, and now I get it, because I don't want to watch anything new because that takes effort. Although, I don't know, I need to, like, this afternoon I need to rip into The Bear, okay?
Oh, yeah. Please, please.
Yeah.
I love The Bear. Gotta get into that shit.
Also, okay, this is interesting. I watched Cheaper by the Dozen 1 and 2, mostly because I wanted to watch Yours, Mine, and Ours, and I forget which is which. And so I watched Cheaper by the Dozen and then realized, nope, that's not what I wanted. So then I had to watch the second one, obviously, because I like the second one better anyway. And so then I finally watched Yours, Mine, and Ours, so here's the thing. Whenever I want to watch a movie, I'll just, like, Google it, because, like, there's always that, like, sidebar on Google where it shows you where you can watch it, which is so helpful when there's so many streaming services and stuff. Yours, Mine, and Ours was available for free with ads on YouTube. So I was like, let's fucking go. And I think that is such an underrated thing that, like, people don't really know about. But, like, if you're on YouTube and you click on the, like, Your Movies and Shows thing, like, there's a whole tab under there that's, like, free with ads, like, movies and shows, and most of it is, like, meh, doesn't seem like it would be that good, but like, I watched that, and then I watched Flipped, which I don't think I had ever seen before, but it was, like, one I found just scrolling through there, and it was okay. I really didn't know what to expect going into it. And then it definitely had some outdated ableist language. But, like...
Oh my god.
It was... which was weird. It was very interesting. But anyway, I love a free movie. And then, yeah, today I watched Ramona and Beezus, which... It's on Disney Plus, but I don't even think it's a Disney movie, so I don't know what's up with that, but it's very good, and I love it, and I weeped when the fucking cat dies, bro.
Oh, that's what happens. That's why you're saying you cried.
Well, I mean, the whole movie is just emotional, because, like, I just have such a soft spot for Ramona, this misunderstood child. Who is Joey King?
Oh, I know. That's hilarious.
I was like, why does she look so familiar?
It's Joey King.
And I Googled it, and I was like, this feels wrong, because I watched you in the kissing booth. And here you are as a child.
Wow. Yeah, I forgot that that's where she got her start.
I mean, what a great start for her, though. I mean, I think that's all I have to... I just needed to get all of that off my chest about how much I love Disney Channel original movies and just all these movies from my childhood.
It's your birthday episode, man. You can talk about whatever you want.
Thank you for your support.
I may not have much to say because I can't remember the last time I saw half those movies, or even if I did, but I support the rambles.
I really want to watch everything that's on Disney Plus in A to Z order, but I'm never going to do it because I just watch based on impulse, so. Anyway, speaking of other things that have birthdays besides me in the month of July, the ADA turns 33 on July 26th, and One Direction turns 13 on July 23rd.
Do you have any recommendations for people to watch or read during Disability Pride Month?
I mean, I'm always preaching this, but Crip Camp is literally available for free on, like, Netflix's YouTube channel, or if you have Netflix, you can just watch it on there. It's very good. I mean, it really only begins to scratch the surface of disability history. It was really nice, like, recently reading, like, Judy Heumann's memoir, which I also highly recommend, because that really gave a lot more context for me to, like, Crip Camp, because there was so much leading up to that, and, like, after that and stuff, and so, like, highly recommend that. Judy also used to have a podcast, where she would interview people. I haven't listened to a lot of that, because I feel like it'll make me too emo, but, especially for non-disabled people, I'm sure. I mean, again, anyone can listen, but, like, I feel like this is a lot of me preaching to non-disabled people right now. And then I also really recommend Alice Wong's books. So she has, she had the collection of essays that she edited from that was Disability Visibility, which she also has a podcast under the same name that I recommend. And then her memoir, I think it was Year of the Tiger.
Yes,
that's what it was called.
Yeah.
Was also really good. So that's just, a starting place. There's plenty of other, like, disabled media out there, including our podcast, which you're already listening to. So.
Look at you doing something.
Yeah.
Did you see that Alice Wong is also a character that's on the show Human Resources?
I did see that. I don't know anything about the show.
I don't either, but I was, like, looking at, because I saw, like, her Instagram post about it. I was like, oh my god, like, I loved, I was like, she looks so cute in it, first of all. And then I was like, oh, like, I like that, like, it's very, like, nice, like, representation. Like, I don't know, I was just, like, really enjoying her, like, posts about it, and I was reading them and stuff.
Do you know, is it on Netflix, or where is it?
I feel like it is, because, it's, like, created by the people who, made Big Mouth. Human Resources. I'm gonna look this up real quick. Yes, it's on Netflix, yep.
Nice.
The season, it's, there's 2 seasons out.
See, I have plenty of things I could be watching. If I wasn't watching 10-year-old movies, damn it.
Hey, there's all this time in the world.
Is there?
And, I guess that's what they say. It's also be really interesting, like, because the writer's strike is still going on as we're filming this. So it's like, I wonder what, like, in the fall, is there going to be anything new that's coming out? Like, a lot of stuff is not in production. So I was listening to someone talk about that the other day, where they're like, oh, like, people say there's all this media in the world, but now that there's media that's stopped being produced, we're going to actually see what is really out there to consume.
Well, I don't know what you were watching, but that was, like, a direct quote from something I watched, and I also don't remember what that was.
John Mulaney on Hot Ones?
I didn't even finish watching that, but yes, that's...
He literally said that.
I was like, from your lips to God's ears, that's exactly what I heard. Yeah. Wow, we are the same person.
We're whenever you text, it's always so funny whenever you text me about something, like when you text me about Jonas Brothers being on Chicken Date. And I was like, I literally, like, just finished watching that video. I'm really into Jennifer Lawrence lately. All of her stuff is so good. All of her press junket things for her new fucking movie. Oh my god, I'm in love with her. She's so funny. She's really coming back. Like, people thought she was cringe, but now I think she's great.
Oh my god, that's upsetting. I've also been watching, because we all know I listened to The Tripod. They took the plug to Eugene's house, and he was just
none of those words are in the Bible. The Tripod took the plug to Eugene's house. I can't breathe.
That's so embarrassing. Well, they did. Okay. And And he just voice acted for a new Netflix animated movie. He's like a main character in it called Nimona, and it looks very, I don't know. I don't watch a lot of I don't watch a lot of stuff like that, but it looks very good and interesting. So I might watch it just because I think it's cool that he's in it. And on the tripod, he was explaining that when they were designing the character or whatever, that they took a lot of inspiration from Eugene in real life, and so they were well, it only makes sense to ask him if he wants to voice act. So that's how he ended up getting the job. And I'm like, that's so cool.
Oh, that's cute.
But so him and Chloe Grace Moretz have been doing press stuff, so that's now been getting suggested to me, and that's very fun too. Yeah, it's all very fun and cute. But speaking of other, this is gonna seem so unrelated to Disability Pride Month, but Marcel the Shell, we must discuss. Because, rewind. So Marcel the Shell with shoes on. Either you know him or you don't. And last year there was an actual, Marcel the Shell with shoes on movie that came out that I went and saw, and then promptly bought on DVD when it came out, and I was obsessed with it because I hated it in middle school because I found it really annoying when it was viral on YouTube, and people would be like, you sound like Marcel the Shell, and I used to take such offense to that, and now I take it as a compliment because I love Marcel, but I absolutely loved the movie, and mainly because I felt like there were so many parallels with, the disabled community and, being disabled, and so one of my goals for this year is I was I really want to write about the Marcel the Shell movie, for Disability Pride Month, connecting, the two things, and then, I started to, work on, pitching it to, news outlets or just outlets that
right
know. And I was you know what, I feel it's too personal of an essay where it feels wrong to put something out that personal on an outlet that I have no connection to.
Okay.
And so I figured that I'll either just save it for when I write a book someday, but I figured I could talk about it a little bit on the pod.
Yes, please. Give me your thoughts.
So I'm going to pull up. I just have a running note in my phone of Marcel notes. Okay, the biggest thing to me is that, I feel the movie is such a good representation of, adaptations because, he's just this little shell living in a big human house, so he has to, figure out other ways of doing things. And so, literally, one of the first things you see in the movie is, him getting around via a tennis ball. He gets inside of it to roll around the house faster than he could walk. And I'm literally a mobility device.
Oh my god. I haven't... Oh.
Yeah. And then, I don't know, there's just, other, contraptions he's built throughout the house to, do whatever him and, his Nana Connie, need. And, I don't know, it just makes me think of how I, use, my crutch to, so, my curtains on my windows are, behind my desk where I can't reach them. So, I use my crutch as, an extension of my arm to, shut the curtains. Mm. Or, I, have a clap-on, clap-off light on my lamp because I can't reach the switch on the lamp and stuff like that. Or, how I, play guitar differently and stuff like that. Or, oh my god, one of my favorite quotes from the movie is, because of the fact that, yeah, he's this little shell living in a big house, he was there's a lot of times I just don't get stuff I need, but, not in a sad way, just in a nonchalant, yeah, I'll just, not get that thing right now, and it's yeah, no, that's so real. Sometimes it's if I want to make a certain meal or something, and nobody's around to help me reach something I need, I'm okay, well, I'll just have to do something else instead right now, because nobody's around to help me. Sorry, I didn't want to keep rambling on if you wanted to say anything.
No, you can keep going. I'm like, no, I like actively like want to listen to this. No, I'm sorry, I'm not giving that much like I like am very like just the connections that you're making. It's so, because I know you've said this before where you wanted, because like you texted in like the group chat once that you wanted to write something for Disability Pride Month in relation to like Marcel the show. And at the time, I, like, had no idea what you were talking about. And I was like, oh, I wonder if Cassie's ever going to elaborate to me what this is about. And then you didn't. And I was like, I will hear about this one day. So that's why I'm like, I'm hearing about it now.
Thanks. I also think another thing that's really interesting about that movie is, like, it's, like, kind of, I don't know, it's kind of meta. What's the word, meta? Is that a word? Meta?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To describe... You can just keep going, sorry.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, it's, like, kind of meta because, like, we know Marcel, like, in real life, we know Marcel from YouTube, and then in the movie, it's, like, the movie's a documentary about Marcel, but then, like, when Marcel's, like, going on this big search for his family, like, the documentary maker in the movie, like, helps, like, puts Marcel on YouTube to, like, help find his family. So it's kind of meta in that way, but that part of it, like, reminded me of just the fact that it's, like, yeah, Marcel's world is, like, just, like, him and his Nana Connie, and then it's, like, when he's, like, using the internet, like, suddenly his world is, like, massively opened up, and, like,
yeah,
you know, bigger community and connections and things like that. But then the downsides are kind of, like, so like the documentary maker, like in the movie, like he definitely doesn't make like Marcel be like inspo porn by any means, but like the way that people react on YouTube kind of turns like Marcel and his life into a spectacle, which I think is really interesting, because I think that, yeah, like the way that the internet does that with disabled people, like even if you make like something really well intentioned about disabled people, like non-disabled people will turn that shit into being like, oh my god, you're so brave, you're so inspirational, you know,
you're so brave for being alive.
Yeah, literally. And so I just thought that was, like, really interesting, because it's, like, obviously a lot of disabled people, like, have found community through the internet and stuff, but then we can sometimes be subject to, like, the bad parts of the internet, too.
Right.
Also, oh my god, another quote, when he's talking about, like, his family, obviously, he's like, I'm just angry we didn't get a better goodbye. Pain.
Oh my god.
So sad. When his grandma Connie gets sick or whatever, like, is unwell, he makes her a fucking walker. I was like, king. That's fucking king shit right there.
He made her a walker.
And just, like, literally their whole life, like, the whole, like, Shell community's life is, like, based on, like, caregiving and interdependence and stuff.
Oh my god. This is actually ridiculous how much, like, the parallels that you could draw between, like, your life and Marcel's. Like, that's actually, like, very... Oh my god, like, I didn't even think of that.
Well, and then, like, when when Nana Connie is sick, like, he's supposed to have, like, the big, like, 60 minutes interview at his house, but he's like, I don't know that I want people to come over, like, I really want to be cautious with, like, Nana Connie, and I'm like, oh my god, turning down, wanting to, like, turn down things for, like, caregiving, or, like, wanting to take those extra precautions is, like, very COVID, like, parallels in that regard, too.
Marcel.
And then I also just think it's cute, like, Dean is the filmmaker, not to be confused with Dean from Gilmore Girls.
And also Mariah Dean.
Yes. And, like, it's kind of cute because it's, like, obviously him and, like, Marcel's relationship also develops throughout the movie, and, like, towards the end, like, when sad things happen, no spoilers here, Dean, like, kind of, like, in my opinion, like, takes on, like, kind of, like, almost a caretaking role for Marcel in, like, helping him through his grief, and, like, helping keep his spirit up and stuff. It's so precious.
Is this, like, so meta to say that it's, like, you and me? Am I the Dean in your life?
Oh Oh my god, maybe. Also, oh my god, when no, I'm like so torn between wanting to talk about everything versus spoilers, because I think everybody should watch this movie, but
then don't lean into like too many spoilers, because I think it's like, you know, if you say too much, it's not gonna make people, and the people aren't gonna watch it.
True.
Support indie films like A24.
Fact.
Very small film companies like A24.
I think too, like, just a couple other things before I shut up about my love for Marcel, is just like I think it was this year during Sundance, I watched a film like about like a documentary about a disabled person. Like you can just like watch some Sundance stuff online, or maybe everything. I don't know how it all works. But my friend had told me about it, so I just like bought a ticket to watch this one specific documentary, and it was called Search for Other People. And it was like that had a lot of parallels, because it's like in this movie, like Marcel is literally going on a big search for his family, like other people who are like him. And then like in the documentary, like Search for Other People, that's literally a disabled person who's like, I want to find other people with my same type of disability in the world, because it was so rare. And so I just thought that was interesting. And then, yeah, I don't know, man, I just really relate to being small in a big world. And I think that Marcel is just so resilient, and I think that, you know, there's just, I'm sure, like, I've seen essays, like, comparing, like, the movie to, like, other marginalized communities, and I think it's just, like, I think that's what's so beautiful is, like, there are so many, like, obviously very specific things within the film that, like, I can tie to, like, disability stuff, but, like, I think it's also one of those films that's just so relatable to anybody because of
right,
just everything in it. I don't know. I love Marcel so much.
That's why you have 2 Marcel figurines.
Facts, because me and Mariah were both like, you know what would be a good thing to get me?
Although mine did come first, so
Facts.
That made me feel better.
Yes.
It's also funny because you ordered that and you didn't even tell me, so I thought I was doing something that, like, you wouldn't know.
I would have never expected you to get that for me, ever.
Because it's a great gift.
It's a great gift. Like, I don't even remember if I had talked about Marcel to you that much, but it was something you picked up on, and damn. I was like, damn.
Well, sometimes I do look at the A24 shop, because I always see if they're going to restock anything with Midsummer or, like, Hereditary, like, any of, like, they used to have, like, clothes, like, the sweatpants, and that I thought were really cool, and I always keep checking if they're going to restock anything, and that's when I saw the shell.
Yeah, love me some Marcel.
We also love Olivia Rodrigo.
Damn right we do.
And her new song, Vampire, hits. Oh my god. That girl, she can write a song.
Facts. Did you just listen to the song, or did you watch the music video?
I didn't watch the music video, but I read the song and I went through the Genius lyrics as I was listening to it.
Because, okay, so first I watched the music video, and so then when I went to save it on Spotify, I accidentally saved the non-explicit version, so I would like to make clear what chorus you heard. You got Fame Fucker, right?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Because I was listening in the car yesterday or something, and I was like, Dream Crusher? Where did that come from? Because I was wondering how she was going to make a non-explicit version. And so I was like, oh my god, where did this come from? I was so offended, because I'm like in the car screaming Fame Fucker, and it says Dream Crusher, and I was like, what?
The way that girl drops the F-bomb, nobody, no one can relate. Like, people were like, this song sounds really familiar. Yeah, it sounds like the song of the fucking summer. Like, literally, like, I just think that she does such a great job at writing and, like, conveying, and I think that she's, like, I know some people draw, like, parallels between her and, like, Taylor Swift with their songwriting abilities, and I can get that, because it's very detailed, it paints a certain picture in your head, but I'd like to go out on a limb and say that I think that she's even a little bit better and, like, more relatable. Because Taylor Swift songs, I feel like sometimes you really have to, like, do, like, a search on, like, what she's even talking about. Where, like, Olivia Rodrigo, like, you can obviously tell, like, this was, like, the song is written in the perspective of someone that was, like, the life was drained from them in a relationship. And, like, I was even looking at, like, in the Genius article, it referenced a few different people that, like, oh, it could be about this guy or this guy. And, like, it's because they're dudes that she dated for such a finite period of time, but, like, right after her, like, huge success off Driver's License. So it's like, you can only think that these guys were using her for the fact that they're, for, like, a career acceleration. Because, again, she's, like, what, at the time? She was, like, 18?
Yeah.
And these guys were, like, 24, 25?
So gross.
Ew.
Gross, 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 gross. Yeah, no, the song fucking hits. Highly recommend watching the music video after this. I'm very excited for her new album. I mean, I think I definitely wore Sour out. I'm sure I'll enjoy, like, listening to it again, like, once, you know, the new album's out and stuff. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm very excited. I'm bummed we have to wait a couple months still for the album, but, and that's the other thing. I'm always so torn with, like, how many singles I listen to. Because, like, I don't want to spoil too much of the album. I'm such an album front-to-back person that I'm, like... And I especially, I mean, with Boy Genius, like, I wore out those 3 singles. I don't put them on playlists anymore. I skip them.
Really?
Yeah. I have absolutely worn out those, the 3 singles off that. Like, and I'm glad I never... had listened to Not Strong Enough before the album came out, because now it's one of my favorite songs and it's not worn out, so.
Yeah, no, $20, I will never be tired of that song. I think that song is
I mean,
iconic.
It hits, but I
get it, we're like, you wear it out, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, I don't know how many singles, I'm sure she's gonna have 2 or 3 total.
Yeah, well, when is the album coming out? When does Guts come out?
September, I think.
Oh.
But that's okay, because... we have a week until, I mean, when you all hear this, Speak Now, Taylor's version will already be out, and thank God for that.
True. I can't wait for the song with Haley Williams.
I forgot about that.
There's a song with her and Fall Out Boy.
Wow.
I don't know. I just want to hear it. I just want to hear her music.
I need Long Live.
I'm not a big Swiftie, but I can appreciate the songwriting aspect. I can appreciate the way that she paints pictures with the words.
When I was watching Ramona and Beezus, because it all comes back, A Place in This World by Taylor Swift was in that movie, and I was like, oh my God. I can't remember the last time I listened to that. I'm over here I'm like, I don't know how other people behave at Taylor Swift shows, but I'd be like fucking like acting like it's like a pop punk, like,
oh my God, right?
Hardcore, like,
right? I'm like, how are you not like finger pointing, like almost being on the shoulders of the person in front of you? Like, how are you not losing your absolute shit like right now? Like, we have a mutual friend that just saw her and Taylor Swift sang Love Story. And I'm like, how are you not going berserk?
I had to skip the Instagram. Whenever I see anybody I know post about being at the Eras Tour, I swipe past that shit so fast, because if I'm one thing, it's a jealous bit. And I bet if I looked up Seattle tickets right now, there's still $2,000.
Oh yeah, no, New Jersey was bad. I mean, like,
if it was here, I would totally go join the crowd outside. Like, I've seen all those videos of the crowd outside where there's, like, just as many people outside as inside. But I'm not driving 3 hours to Seattle to sit outside. That ain't happening.
Right. Also, a lot of the times, like, for New Jersey, I think they end up, like, they told people not to tailgate, and I think they were, like, clearing people out. Which, like, then you risk, like, going there and then, like, having to leave within an hour of the show even, you know?
Yeah. That was the funny thing about, like, the Louis show, is I'm just, like, because, like, it's in, like, a pretty, like, Edgefield's in a pretty residential area, and I'm just, like, it's also, like, usually the shows there are very chill, and I was just, like, they were not ready for One Direction fan. Like, I mean, again, it was also, like, most people are, like, pretty tame. Like, we would scream, but then when he was, like, talking or whatever, like, he literally said, like, oh my God, I could hear a fucking pin drop in here. Like, it's so quiet. And I'm just like, okay, but, like, I couldn't hear anything over myself when he played the One Direction songs. I'm just like, that's the thing with, like, the Taylor shows, like, with these shows that are outside. I'm just like, imagine living nearby and you just hear me wailing the lyrics, you know?
That's like, it's always embarrassing to have to listen to your videos back and you're singing in the background.
Oh, no regrets. No regrets. That's why you just take videos of yourself singing.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's not an accident, you know?
That makes sense. Are we now gonna dip our toes into the correction corner?
Yeah.
So, we were kind of keeping a list during this entire season.
Keep that
Jesus. Says, that was like supersonic. I like felt that. I like literally felt the wind from that. We've been keeping a running list of like things that we need to like fact check and like correct ourselves on and stuff, because like we say we know things and then we find out that we actually don't. So I would like for myself to name my one thing, because unless I just honestly can't remember other things I've talked about, but I have a horrible time, and I'm aware of this, enunciating words. Like Cassie has said when she transcribes the podcast, sometimes she just leaves spots blank because she has no idea what I said. And I get it. Like sometimes I think my brain moves, like my mouth doesn't move as fast as my brain thinks. And like a reasonable person would stop and like let their brain form a thought and then start talking. But I don't do that.
But a person who's gonna be diagnosed with ADHD.
It's a runaway train up here.
Oh yeah.
It's a runaway train, and the tracks are still being put down as I'm talking, you know?
Yeah.
It's even hard for me to like get the past and present tenses of verbs correct. Like saying like where or was or is, are, like anything like that. Like I feel like I just can't, like, I can't pull it together in the way that everybody wants me to. And it's not like anyone has said anything to me, but, like, I record back, like, when I'm editing our recordings, and I'm like, dude, if you just took a second to, like, reset, like, to like, just correct what you just said and reset it again, like, it would just do a world of difference.
Examples. When I record it back, or when I reset it again. Re-say it, yeah.
Exactly, like, just re-say it, yeah.
No,
instead of, like, tripping over. No,
it.
yeah, like, literally, yes.
I think that it's my favorite thing about you.
I can't get it together. But see, I feel, you know, here's my thing, which, like, I guess sometimes I like to think that I sound smart. And then when I do things like that, it makes me feel like I'm not.
You are very intelligent.
I mean, it's just, it's like, you know when, like, people give you, like, a compliment, but you feel like it just kind of bounces off?
Yeah.
Like, sometimes I'm like, oh, yeah, like, it's like people, I feel like other people could think that I'm smart, but if I don't think that I'm smart,
yeah,
then, like, it doesn't, I can't absorb what that person's saying to me. It's the same thing with, like, any other compliment of, like, oh, you know, just anybody saying anything, and it's just like, yeah, but if I don't think that, it's a lot different.
Do you follow Dutch? Did you ever watch his videos on, like, TikTok, Instagram?
No,
he lives in New York. He's a preschool teacher. He does morning, or he does affirmations with his preschoolers. I think you'd really benefit from them. They're like, I am smart.
Oh my God.
It's very cute, and I think maybe you need them.
You know what? I've been pulling a new affirmation card every single day.
Do they say that you're smart?
What is the one I pulled today? I don't have to prove anything to anyone.
There we go. There we fucking go.
Wow. Hear that, guys? I'm actually going to trip up on my words on purpose now. And not correct it in the future.
Listen, Maisie would not have texted me and said that, yeah, like, you should absolutely be a voice actor if she didn't mean it, so.
That's real. I guess because I just want to be, I think I work better in, like, the written word. Like, I feel like I'm better with writing things than I am of talking things, especially off the top of my head. Like, I'm better if I have, like, something I follow. But I do think that, like, the best jokes I come up with are, like, on a whim type of thing. Which, you know, it's not like that stuff, to me, is that hard to put together. But, I think when it comes to forming, like, a real thought, then, like, maybe that's where I struggle with. So yeah, that's my correction corner. Every time I edit, I'm like, oh my God, Mariah, slow down. You don't have to say all your words at once.
But I remember what it was like for my brain to go that fast pre-ADHD meds, and yeah. I've got a lot of corrections because I may speak well, but it doesn't matter if I speak well if I be saying shit that ain't true. I said that I saw Boy Genius in 2016. Well, they weren't a band in 2016. I saw them in 2018. I'm such a big Boy Genius fan. I saw them before they were a band. Yeah, no. In the travel episode, I was like, what do people even do when they travel? You know, after watching my friends' like Instagram stories when he traveled to France, I've decided that traveling is good actually, and seems interesting. I still think it's inaccessible as hell, but sounds fun. I also said I've only been to Seattle once, or stayed the night there once, but that's not true because I slept on the Seattle streets for Ed Sheeran, which was a total waste of time and energy because I was front row when we got in there, and before the opener even came on, I got pushed out of my spot because the crowd was so pushy that I ended up on the ADA platform in the back of the venue. That was one of those cases of, like, fandom, like, wanting to actually have the front row experience as opposed to, like, just being like, oh, yeah, there's, like, an accessible, you know. And I wanted to be with my friends in the front row and instead ended up alone in the back. And the one tall guy was standing in front of the ADA platform, so.
That guy sucks.
Yeah. And then I did also go to Seattle to see Five Sauce, but that was a day trip. So yeah, I've been to Seattle several times. I also said that Mount St. Helens is in Oregon. It's nowhere near St. Helens, Oregon. It's in Washington. So, yeah. And I'm sure I said a bunch of other unfactual things, but thank God you're not here for facts. You're here for the goss.
The goss. The hot goss. Instead of the hot facts. Also, guys, I don't know if you can hear my air conditioning. If you can, that sucks.
If you can hear my fan, yeah, I've got fans.
So corny. Wow. Can you believe it?
We're blown away over here.
Right. You want to talk about how you're turning 25?
That's the fact.
That's a fact.
I'm turning 25. And personally, my favorite thing about that is it's a perfect square.
You talk about, like, in the math aspects of things?
Yeah, it's a perfect square root. 5 times 5 is 25.
Oh, okay. I never thought of it like that. I always just thought, like, quarter weight of 100.
I hate being, like, a prime number. Like, 23, bad. Ugh. Ugh. Not divisible by anything.
Okay, that's interesting that you look at it from a math perspective, because I always look at it from, like, a music perspective. Like, what songs mention being, like, that age? Like,
oh, yeah.
25, I felt like, was one of those ages for me that I was like, oh, that's going to be a transformative year because there's songs about being 25.
Are there?
Mitski says, I was so young when I behaved 25. Phoebe Bridgers says, 25 felt like flying. And I feel like there's probably another one. But I don't know. I was like, the two artists that I really liked talk about being 25. 25 is going to be a transformative year. And I was right. I was literally right.
You were disturbingly right. And that, I have no expectations going into my 25th year. So that way, anything that happens just happens. I'm done. I'm over expectations.
That's real. That's a real one.
But I do, yeah. I'm pretty excited about being a perfect square. Like, that's a nice number.
I'm almost worried that my birthday questions I have for you are not going to hit and that you're not going to like them.
I disagree.
I guess you'll find out.
Because you're talking to the girl who, like, does the most reflective journaling on New Year's Eve. Like, New Year's Eve, sorry, I can't, sorry, I'm busy. Me and my journal have a date.
True.
Like, I say that like I get asked to do things on New Year's Eve. I don't.
No, I get that.
Do you want to hit me with your birthday questions?
Should we talk about parasocial relationships, or should we do birthday?
I think since we're already talking about the birthday, it makes sense to do birthday.
I have a few, but I'm just going to pick the ones I want to do. But I figured I want to kind of start low and, like, go higher.
Okay, so like hot ones.
Yes, but I feel like they're not as niche questions. Okay, so you're turning 25. So far in your life, do you have any big regrets?
Jesus. I don't think I have any big regrets, only because I journal and therapy so well that I've reframed anything that I do like technically regret or whatever. Like, I just reframe it into, I mean, I did the best with what I knew at the time.
True.
Because that's the only, otherwise I wouldn't be able to live with myself, honestly.
That makes sense. Within the past year, have you gained any new traits that you are grateful for? And is there anything you want to unlearn?
I mean, I don't know if it's a trait necessarily, but I think like having the ability to quit things and becoming okay with quitting things took a lot of work. Like, it literally took me, when I started school, I had a spreadsheet of commitments because I was doing so many things I couldn't remember off the top of my head what I was doing. And so literally the first week of school, I sat down with my friends who are like 20 years older than me, and they looked at my spreadsheet and said, you're quitting like all of these things. And it was extremely hard for me to do, but it took like having that accountability of like being like, you know, it'll be fine, like just send the email, it's not that deep, you know?
Right.
And, you know, since then I've been able to quit more things on my own, I feel like, and just generally, yeah, I guess like the ability to quit things that are no longer serving me or are taking up too much of my time, or just like, that's a trait I've gained. Selfishness, but in a good and healthy way.
Yes. Because who else is your life supposed to revolve around, if not you?
That's still an argument that's up for debate in my head. But I do think generally, like, in terms of, like, my actions and stuff, I'm able to, I'm able to quit things or just say no to things so I don't have to quit them later on. My friend, who is also bad at quitting things or saying no to things, sent me an Instagram post recently that was like, it was like the say no to things card, and if you say no to 10 things, your friend has to buy you ice cream. And so I did start keeping, I don't know if they started keeping a track of their saying no to things, but I've started keeping track, and it is like very rewarding to like take notice of when I say no to things and like practice that. Because I'm somebody that's really hard, because I've used like doing a ton of things as a coping mechanism for the state of the world, and realized that in fact I deal with the state of the world much better when I just do like one or two small things and mostly have time to just take care of myself.
Oh, I like that a lot. That was a really good answer, as if you're being graded on this stuff, but
Thank you. Gotta maintain that GPA.
And I think this one was just a little bit more of like another general one. But like, so far in your life, what would you consider to be like the or one of your most like greatest accomplishments so far?
I mean, I write about it in all my scholarship essays, but I mean, it has to be half access. Like, I think that it's like, even though I ended up having to step back from it, I'm actually reading a book right now called Let This Radicalize You by Kelly Hayes and Miriam Kaba. And it actually talks about in the book, like, how, like, I don't even remember who was saying it or what the context was, but it was, like, just this idea that, like, sometimes you can just create stuff that needs to exist and other people can take it. Like, I had just never seen it. I don't know how to explain this. Basically, like, every time I've created something, I feel so much ownership over it and responsibility over it. And I think that stepping back from half access has been very challenging, and that it's like definitely my proudest accomplishment, but it's like it is still like weird to like grapple with the fact that I'm stepping back from it and stuff like that. But I do think like creating something that needed to exist, like, is something I'm good at. And I don't know. It's just a very weird, like, thing that, like, now that I'm reading this book and, like, read this, like, thing, I'm just like, oh, like, I never had even, like, looked at it that way. Like, instead, it's sometimes hard to not feel guilty that I, like, am not still doing it or whatever. But I think it's, like, sometimes you just need to create something that needs to exist, and then, you know, I mean, I spent 6 years doing it, so it's not like I did nothing. And also, like, at the end of the day, I created it when I was 18, and I don't know, who expects you to stick with something your entire life? I mean, and also, like, with not knowing, like, anything about nonprofits when I started, and now being, like, seeing so many, like, in my advocacy work, I'm like, oh, it's so normal for, like, executive directors to switch out all the time, for board members to switch out all the time. Like, it's not very normal for, I mean, like, it's, I guess, more normal, I guess, for a founder to stay involved, but, like, for the most part, like, founders, like, for nonprofits that exist for a long time, founders eventually die, you know. It's, like, it's not like people necessarily stick around forever. Sometimes the thing just needs to be created, and then, you know, it's not like it's ever been a one-person thing. So, it's funny that you asked me about my accomplishments and I talk about my struggles with it instead, but...
No, I mean, it's just... But that's, like, what comes with these, like, huge accomplishments in your life is, like, letting that be, like, a thing of the past, almost.
Yeah.
Like, letting it serve its purpose as the main focus of your life.
Yeah, it's... Yeah, and I think that's... Yeah, it's almost like it's my greatest accomplishment, and then I'm like... It's almost like I have to bring all this justification with it of, like... justifying only to myself, right? Because nobody else is judging me. But yeah, I think that, I mean, I will always love live music, and I mean, honestly, too, even stretching beyond that, I think is just anywhere that I've made an impact with accessibility and continue to do that. Right before we started recording, I emailed Edgefield because I had emailed them. I think I talked about this a while back, but I had emailed them in the beginning of this year to be like, hey, like, you know, when they started announcing shows, like, hey, like, you should improve these things about accessibility, and so I emailed them to be like, hey, like, thank you for, like, the changes you've made, here are some other suggestions, you know. And it's like, it's things like that where it's like, you know, what's a 30-second email for me could make a huge difference for other people, I mean, obviously including myself, but, like, for other people as well. So,
right.
I think that just anywhere that I've been able to even make the slightest improvement with accessibility or raise any awareness is huge. But obviously having a database of accessibility information on over 500 venues is massive.
Yeah, changes a lot of lives just by that, you know, having that info there. I mean, I even always thought it was, like, so, I, like, loved it when people would ask me about, like, concert venues and be like, oh, Mariah, like, do you know if Half Access would have this on their website? I'm like, guess you gotta look it up yourself and see if they do. Or, like, when they tell me they referenced it in something, they'd be like, oh, yeah, like, you know, I'm going to a concert and I need the accessibility, like, information, so I checked out Half Access. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, it's just like those overlapping, like, circles in your life. Like, that really come together. It's just very, it gives it a vibe.
Well, and that is the other, like, weird thing about it living on longer than my involvement, obviously, is that a lot of people who meet me and know me now don't know that part of my life, or that I did that. And so it's, like, it's weird that it's obviously going to keep still having an impact, like, this thing that I started. I don't know. It's just wild. I don't know. I'm just glad to make somewhat of a difference. Even if I'm, you know, figuring out what I'm doing with my life or whatever, I'm glad it can still carry on.
Yeah, it's a great thing. Proud of you, girl. Happy 25th birthday.
Thank you. It doesn't feel... I have no concept of time. I mean, I know it's still a couple weeks away, but I'm like... I don't know. I'm just here.
I'm here until my body wants me to stop.
Which some days I'm like,
There we go. That's me all last week. Anyway, the last thing on our doc being parasocial relationships that we have realized that people have with us. Hi, guys.
It is funny because you text me what your friends text you about me and the pod, and I text you what my friends text me about you and the pod. And they're like, yeah, I'm developing a parasocial relationship with it. And so I just want to say, hey, Mariah's friends. I know you exist. I know the Mariah cinematic universe.
And I just want to say, hey, Cassie's friends, what's up? And why don't you guys follow me on Instagram, since you like me so much?
Because if you're on private, they probably feel like they're not allowed in the club.
I'm not on private. I actually took my Instagram off private.
Oh, I thought you were.
It was.
Oh, well, everybody slam that follow.
That's the thing, is like when you're on private, people don't want to follow you because it's very noticeable. Like, you have to say yes or no. I am thinking I'm going to go back on private, only because, like, not everyone should have access to me, you know?
I mean, that's what the close friends story is for, you know?
That's true. I actually only posted on a close friends once, and I don't even know if I, like, added everybody that I, like, wanted to see that post in it. The thing is, I'm like, a lot of people that follow me, I'm like, oh, like, they all could be in my close friends. Like, why not? So then I'm like, why even have a close friends story when I can just post things on the normal story? Because I don't care who sees it. Like, unless you're someone going out of their way to, like, look at my Instagram story and you don't follow me, that's weird fan behavior. Just follow me. But, I'm like, oh, I'll just post it on my story. Who cares?
See, I care, but that's because there's, like, family members on there.
I get that. I mean, I have family members. I have, like, my friends' parents that follow me.
Also, I have, like, almost 1,000 followers, and I'm like, just, most of you don't need to perceive me.
That's the thing, is that my Instagram is only a few months old, so I need to gain more followers on there. Like, having 100, 200 followers on Instagram, and then posting on a close friend story, it's like I'm realistically only cutting out, like, 30 people.
Oh, yeah, you and your 70 close friends.
It's mostly just, like, people that I, like, I'm like, oh, like, I don't care if they know this about me, you know?
Yeah,
but then I'm like...
I have people who... either I'll add them to my close friends or they'll add me to theirs, and it's like a reciprocal close friends thing that happens where you're like, oh shit, I'm in yours, you're coming in mine.
I love seeing that I'm on people's close friends stories. Like, I have never felt closer.
There's people I hardly know.
I know. Yeah, and they put you on their close friends, and I appreciate it.
I love the goss.
I love the goss.
If there's one thing about me, it's I love the goss. But no, it literally anytime that anybody texts me that they're listening to the pod, it warms my heart so much. So thank you, and thank you, Mariah. You know, New Jersey has been holding up a large portion of our listenership, and I thank you for your...
New Jersey's pulling the weight.
They are.
And you know what? I think that it's just, like... I don't know. I mean, I love when people tell me they listen to the podcast. I love, like, just being out somewhere and someone be like, oh, I listened to the episode this week. And I'm like, you did? I was like, whoa.
Yeah,
like,
right?
It's not even, like, a negative thing as if we think nobody listens. But it's just, like, you're surprised when people listen. Especially, like, the quality of the person that listens. Like, it's like someone you're like, oh, like, I feel like when you listen to podcasts, it's like you care about us. Like, you care about our thoughts. Like, that's what this whole thing is. So it's like, oh, like, the fact that you took time out of your day to listen to something that we had to say, like, makes me feel so happy.
Yeah, same. And by the time you hear this, we will have reached over 500 plays, which is so wild to think about. So thank you all for listening. And because if literally nobody listened, we probably wouldn't keep going.
No, right. Like... Yeah, I know when we were, like, talking about breaking this up into seasons, and we were like, yeah, we'll just do the first season and then just see what happens. And we're like, no, actually, like, we're having a lot of fun. And, like, I think now on Spotify, too, at least for Spotify, you can rate the podcast. You can rate it. So, after you listen to all the episodes and you feel like now's the time to give us a good rating, or even, you know, now.
And I think you can on, like, I think Spotify was probably one of the last platforms to get that feature. Like, I think Apple Podcast, like, I feel like that one's been a thing for a long time. Because I feel like other podcasts, like, read, like, reviews or whatever. I honestly never even look at Apple Podcasts, so who knows. Yeah, I mean, if you want to hit them stars button.
Hit 1 star, 2 stars, 3 stars, 4, even a 5th.
5?
Yeah, please. If you feel so inclined, if you feel called to, leave us a star. Or a few of them, actually. Leave us a few stars.
Yeah.
Write something nice. I don't know. I'm assuming we can read them, right?
I don't know. I don't think you can write anything on Spotify. I think you can write stuff on Apple. I mean, I think we'd really have to log in. I don't know. We'd have to really go searching for them. But the most important thing is if you rate and or review, maybe it'll help it reach more people, which would be cool. And, now that we are, and since we do seasons, if you're like, hey, you should catch up on the Cassie and Mariah pod, you should go listen to it, because then you and all your homies will be ready for season 2.
Yes, because what if we make a reference and you don't get it? That's literally so embarrassing. So you definitely should, you should listen to the other episodes, so that's why if we talk about any other episodes in our new season, Yes, and I don't know. I'm pretty excited about the segment we have planned for the new season. Oh, yeah, we got some new segment ideas. We got some marketing. We got a bunch of fun things planned. So it's really awesome to just kind of keep trucking and, have this whole great project and this great endeavor that we get to, work on together and watch blossom and, make some friends along the way. What a joyous thing.
Yes.
Are you gonna cry?
No.
Oh my god, my phone fell. That was so dramatic.
God.
Jesus
fucking Christ.
That was so dramatic. My hand got caught in my headphones cord. Fuck.
Oh my god.
That was the second that my phone fell.
I said I wasn't gonna cry and you beat me up.
Well, that's a wrap on season 1 of the Cassie and Mariah Show. Follow us on Instagram or Twitter at TCMSPod for any updates about the show. And you are all more than welcome to follow our personal Instagram accounts, which are at WilsonXCassie and at Sassafras.777. And keep an eye out for season 2 coming this fall. Bye.
Yay.